MiVote Mackinac is brought to you by DTE Energy Foundation, ITC Holdings Corp., the Masco Corporation Foundation, PVS Chemicals, and by the Shirley and Bill Fox Fund.
Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us for our special MiVote Mackinac coverage. I'm Christy McDonald. We are in the parlor of the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island, the site of the Detroit Regional Chamber's Mackinac Policy Conference. And for the next 3 days, we're talking about the biggest issues impacting our state and the solutions to move Michigan forward. At the place caught somewhere in time, Michigan's movers and shakers meet to map out the future. For 35 years running, the Detroit Regional Chamber's Mackinac Policy Conference brings together over 1,500 of the state's top leaders in business, education, politics, and foundations with an agenda to move Michigan forward. The focus this year? Job training and education, as well as economic growth and urban revitalization.
So we have three pillars at this year's conference: talent, urban revitalization, and one Michigan voice, sense of cohesion. And so cohesion is really the thread that runs across the pillars. How do we speak as one Michigan voice? How do we unite east to west, urban and non-urban? How do we function and operate and speak together as we project ourselves to the world?
And Michigan has quite a story to tell. 2015 finds our state in a very different place. Unemployment numbers are slowly dropping. Business investment is growing.
By every conceivable measure, the economic indicators for the state of Michigan are up. Our population is growing. Our economy is growing. Our unemployment rate is falling. Our job creation rate is increasing. All of these things are hugely, hugely positive. And this is after literally years and years and years of businesses leaving, of people leaving, and unemployment going up. So we've been able to turn that tide.
Detroit is out of bankruptcy and without an emergency manager. Mayor Mike Duggan is leading the charge in the city to energize business downtown, as well as fight blight and restore the city's many neighborhoods. Governor Rick Snyder won another 4 years in office, but is fighting to find another way, along with the legislature, to finance and fix Michigan's roads. There is also increasing focus on education, how we're teaching our kids statewide, and what reforms do we need in struggling districts like Detroit. All of this sets up quite a conversation at the Mackinac Policy Conference this year, the ultimate place for people who can enact change in this state to come together and focus on Michigan's future.
The conference is hugely unifying because, when we talk about getting everyone together, all the leaders together, to create a common agenda and have a common conversation, it helps immensely with understanding.
And coming up tonight, a look at what dominated the conversation on the island today. I'll talk roads and jobs with Governor Snyder. Also, the Coalition for the Future of Detroit School Children says the road to fixing Michigan schools begins in Detroit. Plus, he's known as the host of Dirty Jobs. And now Mike Rose says the key to growing Michigan's economy is through skilled trades training. And the state's future leaders show off their engineering and technology skills. That is all coming up. But first, we begin with our contributors tonight, Nolan Finley of the Detroit News and Stephen Henderson of the Detroit Free Press. Gentlemen, welcome to Mackinac Island and the Grand Hotel.
Yes, good to see you.
All right.
Good to be here.
It's good to be back here. All right, so let's talk about what are some of the main issues that you think are going to be tackled on the island. What's the vibe here, Stephen?
I think we started off with schools, Detroit schools. You've got two competing plans, one from the Coalition for Detroit School Children, one from the governor. Both sides say that it has been significant progress in sort of meshing those plans together, coming up with a way to pay off the system's long-term debt. I think they're optimistic that if not this week, but then soon, by sometime in June, we could have an actual plan to put in front of the legislature when they come back in the fall.
What about the economy, Nolan? Is this an opportunity for Michigan to pat itself on the back a little bit, considering where we've been the past 5 years?
Well, we're making progress. We're making considerable progress, and a lot of the of that can be attributed to the fact that we came up here for a lot of years and talked about what needed to be done, and then Rick Snyder and the legislature did it in those first 4 years. Now there's some other things that need to be done, including roads, most particularly roads.
Roads have always needed to be done, so you think it's actually going to get done?
No, I'm not sure at all it will, but that's the piece that's left. That and skills training, those are very real issues, and I know skills training's not a very sexy issue, but it is a hindrance in drawing employers here. When they look at our workforce and they say, you know, you just don't have enough of the workers we need, that's costing us jobs.
We both had interviews with the governor earlier today. He did not sound optimistic about roads. He did not sound optimistic that we would get a long-term solution to this anytime soon. I mean, we've got this sort of patchwork thing that comes out of the legislature. He was saying maybe we'll get a Senate plan on roads in July, which might reset the table for a fall discussion. So that's not coming.
There are some strategies emerging here. There are some plans the business community are trying to help with to move the legislature to the place where they need to be. And where they need to be is the acceptance that funding roads will require a combination of things, but including in the mix is a tax increase of some sort.
New revenue.
And there's a lot of work being done here to move the lawmakers in that direction.
What about the role of Detroit here at the conference this year? Mike Duggan again took the stage late this afternoon and to a really receptive crowd. All the members of City Council are here. How does Detroit play a role this year?
Well, I think the mayor is on a little bit of I don't want to say a victory lap, but certainly a tour where he wants to show off what that first year of governance under him has looked like. He talked about the number of streetlights that he's installed, some 44,000 he says have been installed since last year. He says they'll be done by July and we'll be finished with that project. He talked about the 4,000 houses they've taken down in neighborhoods outside downtown and midtown. He was really stressing the idea that I'm not just working on the city's core, I am all out in the neighborhoods and trying to make a difference.
So Nolan, is this an opportunity for him to sell Detroit to the rest of the state? Should he need to go to the legislature for some kind of money somewhere along the line?
I don't know that that's what's going to happen, but I do think that there's a lot of focus at this conference now in how Detroit develops and how it moves forward. You're hearing a lot of talk about inclusion and race relations. We haven't heard that up here since 2005. And they're coming back to it because people see the potential for problems if we have an unequal city, if we don't have some form of racial equity, and if we're not mindful of inclusion.
And now you're having a conversation about that, and you are as well then on Friday?
My conversation is more about racial equity that's showing up in other cities, places like Ferguson and Baltimore, and what we ought to be doing here to try to avoid those same kind of problems. Yeah.
And Nolan, what is yours going to be about?
Well, mine is about inclusion. How do we make sure we don't have two Detroits, one white, prosperous downtown, and one black, desperate, trapped in the neighborhoods? It's a real issue. It's not as clear cut. There's a lot of controversy around it, a lot of disagreement, but it's something we have to keep talking about.
All right, stay put, guys. We have a lot more to talk about, but Governor Snyder kicked off this year's conference pushing Michigan's comeback. I talked with him about three big issues right now in the state: job training, road funding, and education. One of the big things that people are talking about is getting a skilled workforce for Michigan to fill these jobs that are here. How are we doing as a state compared to others in that
Well, I think we're doing well, but this is both a huge challenge to our nation in terms of lacking enough people with the appropriate training to be successful, and it's a giant economic opportunity for Michigan. So that's why I made it a top priority. It's number one on my list of things to work on, and it's great to see it be such a big topic up here at the conference. So I was very excited today. We just announced a press conference about doing a series of videos with Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs fame, actually talking about the skilled trades for older kids. And then for the K-5 group, we have Tom Dalden with Under the Radar talking to younger children. So this is to get parents and kids understanding that these are fabulous career opportunities that should be filled, and how to get more information and get them on a path to success.
And kind of maybe changing the perception.
Absolutely, because too often people viewed it kind of as a secondary choice compared to getting a university degree, and that was a mistake. They're equally honorable, equally well-paying jobs, and we need to promote them a lot more and not have them viewed as a second track. again, it should be an equal track because people can be successful and they should find what they love and go for it.
There's been some movement in Lansing talking about repealing the prevailing wage law. How would that impact skilled trades here in Michigan?
Well, I think it could be adversely impacting it in some fashion. That's why I'm not supporting that effort, because I want to make skilled trades the top priority, and to do that the best way, I want to partner with everyone, including the trades, because they want to be part of the solution in terms of seeing more opportunities created for tens of thousands of great, well-paying jobs in Michigan.
All right, one of the things that people are still talking about a lot, obviously, the roads here in Michigan. We can all agree that they're in terrible condition. What we can't seem to agree on is how to get the money to fix them. The temporary fix the legislature came up with, $400 million coming from the budget next year. Do you think that we have the odds for a long-term fix sometime soon, a solution, a long-term solution?
I think there's an opportunity to get there. The House came out with a plan recently, and I appreciate them coming forward with a plan. They're getting reaction from the public now, and I encourage people to look at their plan. The Senate should be doing a plan hopefully in the next month or so. I've had a plan out there. So following up from Proposal 1, I hope with these plans out there we can find common ground through the summer to talk through the issues and get something done in the fall to really get a permanent solution. The $400 million is a stopgap at best. It's not really the solution we need.
It's really filling a pothole instead
of It is filling potholes, not
the road.
Reinventing our roads.
So do you believe then this is going to be a legislative fix? This is nothing that's going to go back to the voters again?
Well, I think that's something we heard from voters is they would prefer a legislative fix. So what I would say is most likely it's going to need to be a combination of looking at how we budget, being more efficient at the state, having a growing economy, but then also having some revenue increases.
Yeah, because people would look and be skeptical to say, what, we've got $1.5 billion that we can cut out of what we already have right now?
Yeah, that'd be extremely difficult without making major cuts to other important things going on in our state, whether it be schools, education, healthcare. I don't think people want to see that happen. So, but will be part of the dialogue.
All right, I'm going to shift gears to education right now. The Coalition for the Future of Detroit School Children came out with their plan of what they would like to see happen at DPS. You came out with the plan. What would you tell parents right now who have children in Detroit public schools or in the charter school systems in Detroit? What can they expect now in the next 6 months or when they send their children back to school in the fall?
Well, I think it's a positive message. It shows the attention being put on education in Detroit. It deserves more attention. We need to get better results in Detroit. So if you look at these efforts, both the coalition effort, what I'm talking about, and we incorporated many things they put out there, is how do we raise the bar of performance for our schools in Detroit? Right now we have more supply than we have demand. We need that equalized, but I want to raise the performance bar on all schools, whether it be a DPS school, an EAA school, or a charter school. Our kids deserve better.
Yeah, I was going to say that isn't this something that can be spread across the board here, because it's not just problems with DPS. You've got districts around the state where scores in reading in fourth grade, reports just out recently, that they're really taking a dive. What can parents statewide expect in terms of focus on education for them?
Yeah, and there's an enhanced focus, and we've had it for a number of years, but actually there'll be a good report coming out in the next week or so on preschool through third grade reading. That's a critically important area, and if you look at, we're setting aside quite a few millions of dollars of budget resources to help back up the plan that should be coming out, and it's good stuff. That's where you make the biggest differences in those early ages, but then let's keep it going through high school and higher ed.
All right, Governor Snyder, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
Okay. And of course, opinion is divided on how to fix schools. A huge budget deficit, a decline in enrollment, and below average test scores are among many of the problems impacting Detroit schools. Today, the co-chairs of the Coalition for the Future of Detroit School Children talked about the need for local control.
At some point, Detroit has to stop wearing the scarlet letter. I mean, if we're going to be held accountable, we wear the scarlet letter because we're held accountable for what's happening in schools, yet we don't have control. So I think we're going to have some local control on this. It has to be at a municipal level. We need to be able to see the whole entire picture because there are so many different entities and interests who are in that landscape.
All right, Stephen and Nolan, we talked about this a little bit when the coalition's report came out, and then the governor had his own ideas, but I'm trying to figure out how this is all going to merge and where is the definitive plan, not just for Detroit public schools, but for statewide, if this could be a model. Stephen?
Yeah, the governor talked some today about how he wants to sell this debt bailout of Detroit schools as a model for other school systems around the state that are having financial trouble. There's still some separation between him and the coalition on governance. How soon does the Detroit School Board come back? What does that Detroit Education Commission look like that's going to oversee school openings and closings and things like that? But I think they're much closer right now than I might have thought a couple days ago. I think they're working it out, and there's movement toward a deal.
Nolan, you're shaking your head
well,
no.
because that's not really where the relevance is in terms of the closeness of the coalition and the governor. His problems with the legislature,
right?
And they're nowhere close to this plan. You mentioned that statewide schools. Ed Trust Midwest came out with a report last week. We're headed toward the absolute bottom, not just
in terms
for
of
city
fourth
kids.
grade reading, they specifically look at.
Not just for city kids, but for suburban kids and outstate kids, for white kids and black kids. And now you're going to go ask the legislature to take $50 a student from every district in the state and use it in Detroit when their own performance is dismal. I think it's a tough sell.
It is a tough sell, but it's a sell that makes, again, a lot of fiscal sense in the long term. This is the state's debt. They ran it up in Detroit. If they don't pay it now, they will pay more later.
And I don't see that.
Will pay
I think
more.
they would rather kick it down the road than take responsibility for stripping money from their districts to give to Detroit. I don't see it happening.
Oh, well, could you also make the argument, though, that if you don't do something now to fix Detroit schools, that everything that you've done for the bankruptcy process is going to be for nothing, because no one will move into the city if they cannot depend on good schools.
Except since, Christy, they've been doing something to fix Detroit schools for 6 years.
Okay, so
and
what's broken now?
It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. Now you're going to go back to the legislature and say, write us another check. This time it'll work. I think you're going to run into a lot of skepticism.
All right, well, I asked the governor, I said, what do you tell parents who are looking to send their kids back to school in the fall? And he's like, well, I think, there's a lot of focus and a lot of tension and something will get done. But again, my thing is you've got parents who are sitting here waiting. When can they expect some movement? I know we've got to get ideas and we've got to make sure people are on board. But when I'm a mom or I'm sitting at home and saying, should I send my kids to DPS in the fall? These are big decisions that are crucial.
I think they will have something in the form of legislation by the fall to put in front of the legislature to vote up or down. The governor seems confident that he can persuade them. I think Nolan's right that it's a tough sell, but it's the only case that makes any sense. It is the only way forward, not just for the Detroit schools, but for a lot of these other districts.
I don't disagree. I just don't see how you make it happen.
Well, I think it's an interesting part of this conference that this is where those conversations do take place. And so for all the people who say, what are you doing up here? Okay, I know that everyone can see the martini glasses behind me, but the conversations that are happening among the players to try to make some kind of deal is what's actually happening here.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen lots of the players here sitting on couches next to each other talking. Both John Ricolta and Tanya Allen started off this morning with very strong statements on their panel about what needs to be done. John Ricolta called out the Republican Party in the legislature and said, listen, there's nothing conservative about blowing this kind of financial responsibility. I think there is going to be movement from that kind of activity.
But you're asking him to do two very big things at once, roads and schools. I just don't know if they have that capability.
It's a shame that you have to pick between those two. All right, moving on, turning now to education and job training. Today, the state announced it's launched a website designed to get more young people interested in careers in the skilled trades. The mytalent.org site is the result of a collaboration between several partners, including Mike Rowe of CNN's Somebody's Gotta Do It.
We love our modifiers, and the modifier we're most familiar with probably is higher education. And higher education is a good thing. Who doesn't want to aspire to something higher? Now, we don't have lower education, because that would be crazy. Nobody would label it that, so we call it alternative. Alternative education, for those of you not quite cut out for the higher road. It's powerful, and it's a message we send our kids. It's a massive undertaking, the business of changing the way people feel about work. But the people on the front line are the guidance counselors and the parents, and of course the peers. And the best thing we can do, I believe, to make a consistent case for work is challenge the prevailing definition of a good job.
All right. So when we talk about skilled trades, I mean, it's one of these things that in Michigan, you know, getting an educated workforce, there's also the skills gap, but then also promoting the skilled trades. A lot of conversation up here.
Yeah, no, I mean, and when we talked with the governor this afternoon, you know, this dovetails a little with the prevailing wage issue. You've got Republicans who want to push that back and say, we don't need that. Well, one of the reasons that skilled trades are a good way forward in Michigan is because of the wages that we pay for those trades. And the governor made it clear he's not willing to deal on that. He's not willing to trade that for something else. We've got to grow the economy, and that is about taking people. Not everybody is going to go to a four-year university and get an advanced degree. There's going to be a lot of people who do things with their hands, who make things, who build things. These skilled trades, that's the way forward.
Nolan, you were shaking your head.
Yeah, because
he doesn't like prevailing wage.
Yeah. I mean, the government has no business artificially setting wages. The market will set skilled trades job wages at a very good level. There'll be, whether the governor signs it or not, there's going to be a citizens initiative to put this thing on to the legislature for an up or down vote, not subject to a gubernatorial veto. And I think you're going to end prevailing wage that way. It should be ended. It'll provide more money to fix more schools and put more people to work.
Yeah, but you have people say you're going to eviscerate the middle class.
Yeah.
And
this idea that you shore up the middle class by lowering wages is one of the more insane arms of the conservative
who work
argument.
On non-state work, our middle class workers, we're earning very good wages. The way to increase wages is to increase demand for workers.
That's one way.
And if you create more work, which repealing prevailing wage will do, you create more demand.
That's one way to do it.
How forceful does the governor come out? I know that he is not for this, but again, if you get the citizens ballot
initiative,
initiative
moving on it. I mean, if they get the citizens initiative going, you need 252,000.
He's not. Listen, he's not going to veto a bill.
He can't veto. He can't veto that.
He can't veto that. But if they send him a bill, and they probably won't because of this petition drive, at a time when he needs the legislature on schools and on roads, he is not vetoing a bill because that to satisfy the unions.
Well,
he will not do that.
Well, he doesn't see it as satisfying the unions. He sees it as an economic issue for the people of the state of Michigan. Again, this rush to erode wages, to push poor people further into poverty, which is what the legislature is all about right now. This is not the way to grow the economy. There's no state that has followed this path to prosperity. Not one.
And this is a larger conversation. This is a larger conversation for the state of our legislature right now. And we're going to have to leave it there, guys. But I'm so glad that you're going to be with me for the next two nights right up here on Mackinac Island. We have a lot more to talk about. And by the way, we have several resources on our website, including videos are designed to get rid of the stereotypes surrounding the skilled trades, and we'll have that for you. And speaking of young people, a group of students got a chance to show off the robots that they built to those that were gathered at the conference here today. The students were the top 3 teams of the FIRST Robotics program.
I think it's a great opportunity for the kids, and this is one of the greatest parts of FIRST Robotics to me is they just get comfortable talking to adults about robotics, and it just develops amazing confidence in themselves, and that they can say, hey, I built this, and look what it can do, and look what I accomplished. And one reason I think consumers brought us up here was to, the conference is focusing on talent development a little bit, so it gives these kids a chance to show off their talents and make some connections.
I'm honored to be here and have our team riding our robot over on the ferry. It's incredible. I feel like we definitely earned it this year, staying in our build room till 2 a.m. working on a robot that just did so well.
I feel lucky enough that we get to be a part of this and get to talk and get some exposure for our team in the state of Michigan, some of the politicians that are here.
Like after we won and they came up and they presented us certificates and they're like, you're going to the policy conference. It was just kind of like you're, going to Disney World, you got like an added bonus after the win. So it was really exciting, and the kids are really grateful to be here, and I think it's a great learning experience for them.
And finally tonight, the historic Grand Hotel is known for having the world's longest porch and for being the site of the movie Somewhere in Time. But this year, there's a new addition to the hotel that will have people talking. The guys at Under the Radar Michigan got a look.
Hey everybody, it's me, Tom Dalton from Under the Radar Michigan. Now you've heard the old expression, what's old is new again? Well, here at the Grand Hotel, they've taken that concept to new heights. Now, a hotel this historic, you don't usually see them making changes or adding anything new, but you guys have 4 new suites?
And that is the exciting part about the new suites, is that when we replaced the pillars out front, took them down, put steel in, and then back into the building, and then we did it in such a way that we could eventually put suites up on the 4th floor.
So originally there were dormers, people stayed up there, then it was storage, and now it's back to these grand
Attic space, so we've used, you know, as an innkeeper, I've turned attic space into guest rooms, which is great. But as a caretaker of this facility, and this I call her, you know, we've brought kind of the look back to how it originally was. Now we have these unique space that we can rent separately or together, which is different than our other 2-bedroom suites. And they're fun. They're dormers, and they look like an old Victorian place like we are.
Yeah, and the colors are, as always with the Grand Hotel, outstanding. I don't know how you do it, but it's just, it works. If I did it at home, it would not work, but here it works. It's incredible.
And I think there's something to that. I think the bright colors that Mr. Varney has brought into the parlor here and our guest rooms are maybe ones you wouldn't want to live with every day. But in a summer house like ours, we think it's appropriate, uplifting, and it's a special thing.
Yeah, anybody staying there tonight?
Yes, there is. Yes.
Oh, okay. Just thought I'd ask.
Fortunately, they're all full.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Fortunately. So next time you're at the Grand Hotel, if you want an awesome suite where you can snooze that has great views, you can't lose with the Cupola Suites. I wrote that myself.
We love the guys from Under the Radar, and that is going to do it for this edition of MiVote Mackinac. We're so glad that you joined us. We hope you'll tune in again tomorrow night at 7:30. Meantime, you can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. Plus, head to MiVote.org for more on the Mackinac Policy Conference. I'm Christy McDonald. Have a great night. We'll see you next time.